Hey guys, what's going on? This is Chris from Weebly Tricks, and today I'm going to talk about the CSS file in Weebly. Okay, so this video will follow the news article on Weebly Tricks, and I'll post a link to this news article in the description of this video. So the title of the news article is "I Can't Find the CSS File in My Weebly Site." Okay, so when would such a situation arise? Well, let's say you're following a tutorial on Weebly Tricks, and one of the steps requires you to add CSS coding to the CSS file. In the tutorial, the CSS file is identified as main_style.css, but you can't find this file anywhere in your Weebly theme. Or the CSS file is identified as main.less in the tutorial, but you can't find this file in your Weebly theme. So what do you do? Okay, well, the short answer to this question, or this conundrum, is that main_style.css and main.less are both CSS files. The difference is that main_style.css was the name of the CSS file in Weebly themes from Generation 3 Weebly prior. And when Weebly rolled out Weebly 4, they changed the name of the CSS file to main.less. Now there are more differences between the two other than just the name, and I will cover them shortly, the basics. And it's also important to know that if you need a CSS file and you can't find one, you can use the other. So you're gonna have one CSS file in your Weebly theme regardless. It's either going to be named main_style.css or main.less, and you can use either or. Okay, so what is main.less? So with the introduction of Weebly 4, Weebly did away with its theme's old CSS file type, main_style.css, and they replaced it with this new CSS file type called main.less. So main.less is still a CSS file, so you can add CSS coding to it just as you did to your old CSS file type, main_style.css. The difference is that main.less is able to interpret new types of CSS coding that main_style.css could not, which, according to lesscss.org, makes CSS that is more maintainable, themable, and extendable. If you want to know what that means, you can go over to lesscss.org and learn more. I'm not going to cover all this stuff, just kind of the basics. So it's also important to note that CSS codes that worked in main_style.css will work in main.less, but not all CSS codes that work in main.less will work in main_style.css. So that's one of the major differences between the two, is that main.less interprets new types of CSS coding marked by the .less extension, and that the older main_style.css file could not. So, okay, so let's talk about one of the problems that people run into when they locate their CSS file. So they're like, my main.less CSS file is empty. Okay, there's no CSS coding in here. What's going on? So it looks like this. So this is our demo site we're using here. I don't remember what theme this is, but okay. So under styles here on the left, main.less. Here's the CSS file on the right. There is no coding other than some add import lines of code at the top. Well, gives? Where's the styling for my site coming from? Okay, so that's a big question that a lot of people get. When you open your CSS file and you see that there's no coding in there, you'll notice the add import lines of code at the top. So instead of, let me say this, so the add import lines of code are taking the place of all the CSS codes that would have been in this file had this file been a main_style.css file type. Okay, so let's take, for example, let's say add import blog. Okay, So that's just all this code is saying is import the CSS codes from the CSS file _blog, which is right here. Okay, click on that, and here are here are all of the CSS codes that the blog uses. Okay. All right. So even though your main.less CSS file is empty of a plethora of CSS codes, it's technically not empty. They're just kind of like surrogates here, and they tell the browser, okay, so go grab the CSS codes from these CSS files, and you'll see them here on the left. So their additional ones are for font, navigation, and so on and so forth. Okay, so one of the other questions that kind of comes along with the main.less file is that there are so many other CSS files alongside main.less. What's going on here? Why are there so many CSS files? Why are there so many .less files? Okay, so as I mentioned before, main.less is your main CSS file. So kind of main.less, main, okay? So, and you'll see, as I mentioned before, there are a whole bunch of other, this particular theme has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 additional .less files. Why are there so many CSS files here? Well, the purpose of that is, as I mentioned before, as I mentioned before, is organization. So instead of having all the CSS codes in one file, it's much easier to find the CSS codes that you need from a list here on the left. Now, how does this work? Well, when a browser reads your theme's coding, Weebly has it set up so that the browser is going to read the CSS codes in the main.less file first. And if there are no CSS codes here, it's saying, hey, check out these files at the top. Okay, so it directs them from main.less to _blog, _response, _commerce. So it directs them to these additional CSS files. And the browser reads them, and your styling is displayed correctly. Okay, and just one of the last things I want to go over with the new main.less CSS file in Weebly is how to create your own CSS file with main.less. Okay, so maybe you're installing a third-party widget's CSS codes, or you've created a new page in Weebly that you want to have its own styling, whatever the situation is. You want to create a new CSS file that houses specific CSS coding. So let me show you how to do that. All right, so the first thing you want to do is go to theme at the top and then select HTML CSS on the bottom left. So let me back up here. Seems to have stalled. Yeah, okay, let me refresh. Bear with me 1 second. Let me refresh that. All right, there we go. So step 1, go to theme at the top, edit HTML /CSS. Okay. Step 2, under styles, click on the plus icon and select new file. So on the left here, here's styles, plus icon, new file. Okay. We're going to name the CSS file. Okay, so we can name the CSS file whatever we want, but it's important that it ends with .less. So we'll just call it file name. Okay, that's the name of our new CSS file. All right, step 4, add your CSS codes to the new CSS file. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually do the CSS first. So we're going to, once I'm done the CSS, I'm actually going to create the HTML. So I'm just going to say, I'm going to create a class. I'm going to call it cool, open, closing curly bracket, and we're going to say background color 3366cc, color white, padding, 2em, box sizing, or box. Okay. And now, so we've added our CSS coding, and once you just need to go to the main.less at the very top, add your import code. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to main.less, and you can actually, if it's easier, just copy one of the import codes directly below it, paste it, and then within the parentheses, just put in the name of your CSS file. And for us, it was file name.less. So all we have to put in is just file name. Okay, so then click save. Now those CSS codes won't mean anything unless we have some HTML to attach to. So what we're going to do is we're going to just create some HTML to display our CSS codes. Okay, so div class equal cool. This is a test of the new CSS file. Close it. Okay. And there you go. Look at that. So as you can see, the CSS codes that we added to that CSS file have been applied to this div right here. We got our blue background, white coloring, and our 2em spacing. And let me show you how that works. So since we have the HTML set up, now let's say we want to make some changes to this div here, right? Okay. So all we have to do, we don't have to sift through one CSS file to find this coding, right? We know it's right here on the left under file name.less, okay? So I don't like that background color anymore. I want to make it purple. So I'm going to go 700 EPE. That didn't work. Why didn't that work? Is that purple? Let's see if I get my hex color codes correct. No, it's not working there. Let me see why that's not working. Oh, okay, it is working. There's just a hiccup in the Weebly editor. All right, so I'm going to go back to that to have the hex color code correctly. Just the Weebly editor just kind of wasn't executing it. Click save. This should change to purple. You can see that. There it is. All right, guys. So that is just a general overview of Weebly's new main. I don't want to say new, but Weebly's main.less newer CSS file inside main.less. Let me know what you think about the guide in the comments below. Do you have any other questions or opinions surrounding Weebly's adoption of less for its CSS file type? And we'll leave it at that. So thank you for watching.